How to survive competition in business? We're going to answer that question on this video. Okay, so generally the first thing that comes to mind when I think, how do I survive competition in business, is pretty simple. Maybe offer better prices, maybe offer better service, right? These are like the simplest things that you can do. Better prices, better service, better products. If you have a restaurant again, if you're making a better steak than the next restaurant, there's probably a good chance that you're going to survive longer, right? So those are the basics. But you're not watching this video just to have that shallow interpretation about that's all I got to do to survive a business, just have better service, a little bit of better product. That's the fundamentals. Those are some basic fundamentals. Yes, it makes sense. Think about it when you're the consumer, you're the customer. Just put yourself in those shoes and then look from that perspective. And when you put yourself in those shoes, you know, when you go to a restaurant, the ones that give you the better service, that make you that floor you on service, that you're like, oh my gosh, they were so nice, they were so amazing. Hey, they gave our daughter a free dessert, things like that. Those are the things that go above and beyond what your standard service is of, say, the restaurant industry. So that's gonna stand out. And that's gonna turn you, or me if we keep going to that restaurant, into a repeat customer. And that's the bread and butter of any business, is repeat business or return business, customer retention, right? However you wanna call it, that's how you build a solid business, is getting customers to come back over and over and over again. So yes, obviously, if you offer them a great product at a fair price and you're giving them incredible service, that's gonna make you survive. But it goes a lot deeper than that, because it's important to know when you get into any business to check out to see what level of competition that you have already in that area and in that industry, in your city, in your area, in your demographic. Because you wouldn't want to enter a market that's oversaturated. And what I mean by that is there's too many of the same business in the same amount of, say, square miles or area, right? So you might have a city that's got 100,000 people in it. And you know, if you're talking about, say, a restaurant, well, maybe that can support 100 restaurants. But let's say it's, you know, let's say it's a different kind of business that is rare. Like you see these skydiving places like iFly. You wouldn't want to have like 100 of those in that same region. They would cannibalize each other. They would go out of business. So it's important to understand, based off of what business you're getting into, that you're able to look at, see what the level of market saturation is. If there's too many of those already in your city, stay out. Because even if you run the best show, the best business, the best prices, everything, you're still only going to get a fraction of the market share of that business, okay? And so that's why I prefer to get into those trendy businesses in the early stages, because I'm usually one of the first or one of the early adopters, so there's not a lot of competition. And then when we enter the space and we build out, and I take so much pride in the businesses that I set up, and I work so hard at them, and I set them up, I get great people, we provide incredible service that is very tough to beat. So when you do stuff like that, it's gonna be tough. If anybody had any business sense and they saw, oh, he opened first and look at what he's built and look at what he's doing, I don't know if this market supports another one. It's gonna make any potential competition that's smart go away. They're gonna try to find another market. And I know that because that's how I am. If I see something, I remember, as an example, when I saw the CBD market starting to expand, I noticed that they were popping up everywhere here in the greater Kansas City area. And I wasn't involved in that industry. I didn't have any desire, but obviously it's a great business model because they keep expanding. They wouldn't be doing that if it didn't make sense, if it didn't make money. Well, when I saw that, the first thought as being a business owner is, well, maybe I should get into that business. And then I noticed, holy cow, it felt like about anywhere that I went, there was another one in one of the local, you know, shopping centers or whatever. And I'm like, dang, it's too saturated. So obviously I could get in, but these people have such a jump, such a head start on me in that particular business, that it's gonna be not only hard for me to catch up, but they've already gobbled up a lot of the initial profits. They got in so early. They've already established their customer base. So it's gonna be really tough. If they're doing a great job and they're selling great products and they're giving great service, it's gonna be tough to pull them out and pull them away to say, hey, come over to me and come buy from me. So knowing that, I don't get into it, right? So it's important to know what your existing competition is. You want to know that before you decide to jump in. Now, having said that, even though we want to know and be aware of the existing competition, what we don't do is we don't give our competition, once we get open, too much energy or attention. I mean, you can't help but notice, because your customers will say things about your competition. Oh, they're doing this special. Oh, they've done this. Oh, you're not doing this. They are, right? So you'll know kind of what's going on. But there's some people that have this mindset, and I believe it's completely the wrong way to enter a business. But they have this mindset that when they get into a business, they have to always be looking at what everybody else is doing, what their competition is doing. Oh, they're doing this, so we have to do this. So in a sense, they're being the followers and not the leaders. You want to be a leader in your business, in your industry, in your city. You want to be the leader. You want your competition following you. If they're copying what you're doing, that's actually a good sign. Don't get mad. I remember the first time I would see competitors copying some of my advertisements. We would put something in there, and their next ad, they would have the exact same thing in there. I'm like, dang it. And it would frustrate me. But then I said to myself, that shows me the level, the skill set, and where they're at and how much attention they're focusing on, that we're ahead of them. Because they're waiting for us to move and then they react. Every time we do something, then they follow. And if you're the leader and they're the follower, you're the one that's ahead of the pack. So what we tend to do in our businesses, in a sense, is it's kind of like a horse race. We put our blinders on as horses and we go full steam ahead. We're not really looking left and looking right and trying to find out, oh my gosh, look at what they're doing. Oh, they're doing this, so we should do this. Well, again, you're going to notice some of that stuff, but I'm talking about don't obsess. Don't focus your attention. Don't keep looking over at your competition, because they're going to slow you down. And what happens to a horse in a race? What would happen if you're at one of your horse races and you're watching the horses run around the track? What would happen if one of the horses, as they're running full speed, turns and looks over at another horse? What's going to happen? They're going to slow down. They're not going to win the race. You cannot win in business if all you're doing is just nonstop focused on what they're doing. Oh, they're doing this, so we got to do this. Be innovative, right? Be creative. Try things on your own. Be aware. Be mindful of your competition, but don't obsess. Don't focus on it. So I remember, back to the gold business, I remember one of the mistakes that we had made is our competitor had opened up a store, a location very near one of ours. And so we thought to ourselves, wow, they're kind of declaring war by doing that, right? So let's just do that to them. And we did. And it didn't do anything for us. If anything, it not only hurt them, but it hurt us. Because you don't want to just, again, react. Just because your competition is doing something, you don't want to say, well, they did it to me, so I got to do it to them. You just have to say, okay, they moved their chess piece here. Now I have to plan 7 steps ahead on how I can take that piece. And it doesn't necessarily mean, well, because they did that, I got to plant a flag and open up across the street from them. That could be a cardinal mistake, and that could end up costing you a lot of money and potentially end up costing your whole business. So back to the things that say, how do you survive competition? Well, you guys know how big I am on this, and that is you outwork them. You outwork them. You push through. When the times are tough, you push harder. When they're even harder, you push even triple the amount. You work endlessly and tirelessly, and you put in everything you've got every single day until you outlast them. Just like the bodybuilders. I'm trying to remember what the wrestler was. It might have been like Steve Austin, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think I saw an interview with him years back where they had interviewed him and they had asked him, gosh, you've come to the top in the wrestling, world, and what is it that gets you there? And if I remember correctly, the one thing in that interview that really stood out is when he said, I just outwork them. And he said it a little bit differently. If you watch the video and you find it, feel free to post it. It's awesome to see it. But he'll explain that he just outworks everybody, that nobody's going to outwork him. And it's that whole example that I like to give everybody about persistence, okay? About just keep doing what you're doing and don't stop. Like the stream against the rock. The stream keeps flowing down, down, down. And if there's a rock sitting in the way, eventually, if it's today, tomorrow, next week, next month, 100 years from now, 10,000 years from now, if that stream is still running, that rock is eventually going to get pushed out of the way. Why? because the stream is persistent. It's going to continue to do it. If you stay persistent and you keep pushing through like the stream does, and you keep going nonstop and you outwork your competition, that is probably one of the single fundamental ways to beat them. And I know that that works every single time because I've done it, and I've done it multiple times. You know, going back to the trading card business, if you've heard everything in this video that we've already talked about, most of the people that have opened up card stores to compete with me in the last 15 to 20 years have made these same mistakes. They have not done their market research. And some of them, they decided to open up very close to me, and virtually all of them are out of business. And that's the thing you have to understand is it's going to be very difficult to compete in an industry and with a business that's highly established, that's already offering their customer base insane pricing, great service, outstanding service, and the products are the same as you're going to sell. So what are you going to offer any differently? What are you going to do any differently? I mean, maybe you're going to try to create like a cooler environment, but that might be from your opinion, your perspective. You say, oh, I painted my walls blue and their store has like brown walls and my customer's going to like my walls better. Oh, come on. That's not what's going to make you beat them. What fundamentals? Environment is important, right? The cleanliness of your store, as they say, the feng shui, how it feels, how you feel when you walk in. Is it open? Is it cluttered? Things like that. That does matter. But you have to really, if you're going to get into an industry that's very crowded, you got to really, really understand your competition and how you're going to outdo them, okay? And it's funny because when I watch, certain episodes of Shark Tank, it's interesting to see the sharks all know this. I mean, these are some of the most savvy businessmen and women in the entire world. And it's interesting to see when they sit there and say, well, you're just another this, or you're just another that. And if you get that, what they're saying is, what are you going to do that's any special? I think Mr. Wonderful is the one that'll talk about, oh, so you're reinventing the mousetrap, or you're trying to build a better mousetrap, meaning the mousetrap was already invented many, many years ago. So in order for you to sell mousetraps to the consumers, you got to develop a better mousetrap. It has to be so much better that everybody that's buying the existing mousetraps look and say, well, that one really is obsolete and doesn't work as well. This one's way better, maybe for the same price or a little more, maybe even less. If you can build something better than the consumers are used to for the same price or cheaper, you win every time. That's like simple math, right? But even if it costs a little more, if you build something that really significantly changes the usage of that product or service, then that's what's going to allow you to separate and get into that industry. So that's why getting into certain industries, like if you want to start like a clothing brand, right? Or you want to start like, you see like the people that make like vitamin water or all the just different, sodas or carbonated waters or whatever. Those are very competitive, tough spaces to compete with. And those are the type of industries that I personally would want nothing to do with because they're so crowded and only the rich companies are gobbling up the significant amount of market share. Remember, in business, people define success differently. So everybody's different. And everybody that's watching this video is different. So you don't have to necessarily be the person that makes all the money and makes millions of dollars. You might be happy, maybe you're making $25,000 or $30,000 a year right now. And if you could start a business, say like a restaurant, you could make yourself $50,000 a year. You would be super happy for the rest of your life if you could just have that. And if that's what you define success as, and that makes you happy, success is within yourself. So that's fine. So you could maybe still get into that crowded space of restaurants because you're going to deliver tasty food and awesome customer service because you and your family are going to run it and etc. You're going to do fine. But everybody's got their different level of goals. So if you're like, oh, I want to make millions and millions and tens of millions and billions of dollars, well, it's going to be tough to get into that bottled water industry, right? Already everywhere you go, you see bottled water in every brand. I feel like there's 100 different brands when I walk into a local Walmart or Target on the shelves. So that's going to be a tough industry to compete with. And the capital and the money that you're going to need to even really start that business and to get to that level is very large. And most people either don't have it or aren't going to be able to achieve that amount of money in their life to invest into that. And even if they did, they're like, well, I've made $10 million. I don't know that I want to invest all $10 million that I spent the last 30 years of my life on trying to compete in the water industry. So these are things that you have to understand. Another point that I'd like to bring up that I think is important is focus on the bigger picture in your business. So kind of in closing, when you're dealing with your customers and your products and how you do things, how you prepare your food at your restaurant, etc., think of the bigger picture. Don't think of just serving that one meal today and just getting through the day. Think of the bigger picture, the long picture, right? Earning those customers long term. If you're always thinking long term in your business, that's how I survive. That's what I'm trying to teach you all. Make decisions that are long-term decisions, not how can I make a quick buck today and just get through the day. Those don't last. Those type of mentalities of business owners do not last. They will eventually fail, go out of business, or people just won't want to flat out do business with them. So in closing, we've talked about a lot of stuff. I know this is a good one. Feel free to digest it. Me personally, I absolutely love it. Seeing your comments, please make sure to subscribe. Thanks for all your valuable feedback. And until the next video, be the hustler.